Hey everyone, what's going on? Hope you're doing well. If you picked up Silent Hill F and have been watching the patch notes and the community threads, there's a new first update labeled 0.002, and I want to walk you through exactly what it changes, why people are talking about it, what it means for players on different platforms, and how you might want to approach the game now that it's out in the wild with these early fixes. I'll keep this casual and straight up. No fluff, no press release voice, just what matters and what you might want to know if you're making content, playing for the first time, or deciding whether to jump back in for New Game Plus. So, what does the update actually bring? The headline for many players is a brand new accessibility option, an action difficulty that makes the game more forgiving. That's the mode a lot of people asked for, because the original release leaned pretty hard into a certain difficulty curve that could be brutal for players who wanted more story and atmosphere than intense combat or resource management. With this new difficulty, fights are easier, resources are more forgiving, and a chunk of the frustration that could break the mood is dialed down. If you wanted to experience the narrative and world without constantly worrying about every encounter, this opens the door for that. It's selectable when you start a fresh save, and there are ways to unlock it from higher difficulty runs after you've reached certain checkpoints, so the designers didn't want to completely bypass the progression loop. They still reward sticking with the intended stakes if you want that. Alongside that, the update adds an optional skip feature for select sections when you play New Game Plus. That's a smart middle ground. Players who loved the story but want to move through specific parts faster in a second run can skip repetitive sections while still keeping key narrative beats. New Game Plus often becomes about replayability and experimenting, so that skip option is the kind of QOL change that serious completionists and creators appreciate because it saves time without changing the core experience. Now, I should be upfront about the controversy that's been attached to these early patches. Before this particular update, there was an earlier hotfix that removed access to certain edition-specific or pre-order content that some Steam players were accidentally granted. In plain terms, a technical mix-up briefly let standard edition players access outfits, item packs, and other deluxe or pre-order bonuses that were meant only for higher-tier purchasers. Konami acknowledged the error and rolled out a fix to correct the entitlement checks so that only the rightful owners retain access. Fans reacted in two ways. Some joked and begged to keep the free goodies, while a much louder portion of the community said, "This is fine, but can we please get performance fixes first?" That split explains a lot of the tone in the forums. Gratitude for accessibility changes mixed with frustration about how priorities have been handled for PC optimization. Which brings me to the elephant in the room: performance. Across threads and comments, the loudest, angriest conversations are about frame rate dips, occasional shader stutter, and graphical glitches on PC. Console players report fewer problems overall, but PC users with varied hardware setups felt the port needed more attention. People who paid full price expect a stable experience. And when a publisher fixes entitlement issues instead of addressing severe optimization problems first, it naturally raises eyebrows. The practical takeaway is this: if you're on PC and you care about performance, don't expect miracles from this first update. It makes meaningful accessibility and content fixes, but the deeper optimization work, engine-level shader handling, smoother frame pacing, and broader driver compatibility may still be coming in follow-up patches. Watch the dev channels and the store news for those specific hotfix notes. For people making videos or streaming, this update matters for a couple of reasons. First, the new difficulty and the skip options change the way you can structure a run. If your channel focuses on story, you can now recommend the easier route to viewers who want to experience the narrative without brutal encounters, or you can show a contrast run. First play on the story-focused setting, then replay on the tougher setting to highlight how the game's pacing shifts. The New Game Plus skip feature is especially handy for creators who want to show highlights and avoid repeating long puzzle sequences or fetch segments on subsequent runs. Second, because of the entitlement rollback earlier, if your audience is talking about unlocking deluxe content or wearing rare outfits in streams, be careful to check whether those items are legitimately purchasable or if they were part of that temporary leak. You don't want surprised viewers or retracted footage. If you're wondering about how to check whether you have the update, on consoles, the patch usually shows up in the system's game library or downloads queue and is commonly labeled with the update number in the store page or the in-game main menu bottom right corner. On PC, Steam will auto-download the update if it's available for your region, and the store news will list the patch details. Check the Steam news section for the game and the in-game version identifier to make sure your client is on the latest build. If you've got Cloud Sync enabled, just relaunch the client and it should handle the download. For creators, it's worth verifying the in-game version on screen before recording, so that viewers know exactly which build you're demonstrating. Let's talk about the tone of the community, because that affects how you might want to frame your own content. There's genuine excitement over the added accessibility. A lot of veteran horror fans appreciate when classic franchises add options that let more people experience the story without punishing gameplay overhead. At the same time, many players feel frustrated that core technical problems haven't been prioritized enough, especially on PC. If you want to make a balanced video, acknowledge both perspectives. Celebrate the move towards inclusivity and difficulty design, but keep the critique real about optimization and the speed of post-launch support. People respect nuance, and that's precisely what's missing in a lot of heated threads. If you're planning a scripted piece or a long-form breakdown, consider structuring the narrative around player experience rather than pure patch mechanics. Start with a quick snapshot of what changed for the average player, a new easier action mode and convenience in New Game Plus. Then dig into the reaction. Explain why some players are thrilled, accessibility and replayability, why others are upset, PC performance, removed accidental content, and where Konami stands publicly. After that, offer practical advice, how to pick the right difficulty for the kind of experience you want, how to verify your edition content, and how to check that the game is patched on your platform. End with an honest appraisal of whether this patch moves the needle enough for you to recommend jumping back in or waiting for further fixes. For voiceover style, keep it natural and personable. Don't read the patch notes like a press release. Tell anecdotes. Say something like, I tried the new easier mode for an evening run and it let me linger in the atmosphere longer without getting constantly interrupted by fights. If you're into the narrative more than survival mechanics, it's a solid change. That kind of first-hand framing is more useful than a checklist of technical terms. If you want to be thorough, drop a brief segment where you outline the pros and cons for each platform. Consoles generally more stable, PC more variable and in need of tuning. Mix in reactions from the wider community, not to smear the devs, but to present a spectrum of player experiences. If the video includes footage, here's a tip. Show side-by-side clips where possible. Play a tense segment on the original difficulty, and then show the same section on the easier setting. Let viewers see how combat pacing, inventory pressure, and tension change. Also, if you have the ability to capture performance metrics, show a short overlay of frame rates and stuttering moments on PC to make the optimization critique concrete. That's the kind of evidence-based commentary that viewers trust. For the monetization and purchase conversation, be careful. The update fixed entitlement issues for deluxe and pre-order content that was necessary from a business perspective, but it left a bad taste when people thought they had something they didn't. If viewers ask whether to buy deluxe editions now, be frank. If you care about the art book, soundtrack, or exclusive cosmetics, buy them knowing that entitlement systems will be enforced correctly. If you're only in it for the outfits, weigh whether that's worth the extra cost. And remember, the higher priority for many players is performance patches, not cosmetics. Content creators should also prepare for further updates. This is likely the first of multiple patches. Keep an eye on the official social channels and the store news page for hotfixes focused on graphical options, shader streaming, and frame pacing. When those patches arrive, they'll materially affect recommendations for viewers, and you'll want to produce follow-up content to show how the game has improved. Finally, for community interaction, encourage comments and constructive feedback. Ask your viewers whether they'd prefer you play the game on the new easier mode for narrative-focused videos, or keep the original challenge for a pure survival horror experience. Invite players who faced technical issues on PC to describe their hardware and symptoms. That helps build a repository of real-world data that can be useful to the devs and to other players looking for workarounds.